for your patience, listeners. Truthfully, this next guest never disappoints, and neither is she doing so this morning, as we have in fact found Dr. Karren Dunkley, who is in fact a social commentator based in the United States of America, who will now join us in this discussion. Good morning, Doc. How are you?
Wonderful. Greetings and salutations to you and all the listeners. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you as well. So nice to have you in the big story. So, a federal appeals court in San Francisco, Dr. Dunkley, you know by now, ruled that President Donald Trump's order to end birthright citizenship is unconstitutional, and that has, in that process, affirming a lower court decision that blocked its enforcement across the United States of America. This is some good news for persons who have children, or for children who were born to parents that were illegally in the United States or temporarily in the United States. It's good news for them now, isn't that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's great news because, as you can imagine, we have had since the last electoral cycle, quite a number of actions on immigrants that we consider to be anti-immigrant. And it really has positive implications for the immigrant community, partly because, as you can imagine, persons and adults who are out of status and who become in status, their children should be entitled to birthright citizenship. Mm-hmm. Also, you have what we call mixed status families. And again, birthright citizenship becomes a pathway to ensure that these families become documented. So the three areas in which the implications are positive is that it's going to incentivize immigrants to have a clear pathway to become, quote unquote, naturalized or documented. It's going to, of course, ensure that there's clarity and reform in immigration law. And it quite frankly upholds the ruling of the 14th Amendment that says the United States does not deny the rights and full vestiges of persons born in the United States as citizens. So this is a big win.
There are some people
consider, Richard B., if it's not overturned, let's say that.
Yes.
If it's not overturned, yes, on appeal.
Do you believe the president really kind of overstepped his authority by attempting to redefine citizenship requirements through this executive order?
Definitely. I think that, so we know several things. We understand that this administration has attempted to redefine several laws, including birthright citizenship. And so this is a clear overstepping of executive authority. The 14th Amendment, now this is in the Constitution, it's clear. And an executive order cannot override the Constitution. It says all persons born are naturalized in the United States. The jurisdiction, they are citizens. That's number one. Number two, the only two ways legally that we can override anything in the Constitution has to be a constitutional amendment. Executive orders are not constitutional amendment. Mm-hmm. A Supreme Court ruling can also override and can reinterpret the 14th Amendment. However, again, an executive order does not a Supreme Court ruling make. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, there has to be no consensus. And if you look at this executive order across the political spectrum, regardless of party, regardless of peoples, of the personal belief, the legal scholars concluded that it portended serious legal and constitutional challenges. Mm-hmm. Because if an executive order can overturn the Constitution, what else? Yeah. Where else? Who else would be impacted?
Mm-hmm. Dr. Dunkley, how do you think this ruling now, at this stage where it's at, will affect the lives of immigrant families and their children who were born in the U.S.?
I think definitely, and us being immigrant and as well the lives of the children.
Yes.
really critical pieces, because what has happened here in the United States at this particular time is that individuals are running scared. We know, for example, that there was a legal limbo for children born in the US to parents who were undocumented. And so we were calling them stateless children. We're saying that this is a new class of citizens where they have no legal rights. So this is now tremendous. What I would say, especially to our community, the capsule is action. Now is the time. Consult with an attorney. If you were born in the United States, you are still entitled to become a citizen. Do not be so fearful that you're paralyzed and you do not take action. So it means that you now have a pathway to get naturalized. You are a citizen. Go to an attorney and make sure you have the full documentation. So I think it's going to eliminate legal limbo. Again, risk of deportation. I know families that said to their kids, just in case, they all have to pack up. Here's the plan B. You know, we have to grab and go. It's almost like you are preparing for an apocalypse in that sense. Wow. So I think that that is a big, again, plus. And then you have to look at the right to education. These young people, you know how many young persons, Richie, were missing from school? Were school-age children, they just stopped going. So again, this is far-reaching implications. They can resume access to rights and services such as public education, access to federal programs such as healthcare. They can now go and apply for their passports, receive their social security. So the implications are far-reaching, but I'm saying to persons, Richie B., and this is why I love your program, go and get the documentation, make sure, because this administration is making every attempt to upend the Constitution and especially persons' natural and legal rights.
I believe that this ruling now pretty much highlights sort of a partisan divide on immigration issues in the United States. But what do you see as some of the potential consequences going forward?
Of the ruling?
Yes.
I think in terms of the ruling being ruled as unconstitutional, in terms of the consequences going forward, it's clear. I do not think, believe it or not, that there is an appetite for persons to go back and do a big push behind this. Now, will they appeal? I think the possibility absolutely remains. However, I don't think that we'll see an overturning of precedent. I think there is and don't quote me on this, but no new Supreme ruling. There was a one came arc. One of my friends texted me that when I told them what I was going to speak about. Yeah. Did not overturn precedent. And I think the lower court simply has said that, look, we will not invalidate the constitutional guarantee. So unless it goes to appeal and then it's not upheld on appeal, I think this is when we have to worry. But right now, no court has ruled otherwise. And I do not see this becoming issue focused for the Republican or the Democrats. I think that they have so many things they want to accomplish under Project 2025 that they may move on.
So there's a lot of conversation going on about this issue, but do you believe that the administration is listening, and how might they treat with this going forward from your perspective, based on your observation?
So here's what we do know again. I think that this administration has been persistent. This is that administration that has been deliberate, that is anti-immigrant, right? There is the immigrants in America, whether we're naturalized or undocumented, have become what I call the boogeyman. You might recall historically they had the Red Scare where they said socialism was coming, the Russians were taking over. So the immigrants have become the new Red Scare. We are the boogeyman. But standing on precedents, again, the Supreme Court in 1898, and I have a friend who's listening, the United States versus Wong Kim Ark, said that any child born in the U.S., the non-citizen, in this case it was Chinese immigrants, would become automatic citizens, and there is no precedent to overturn it. So if it is again that the ruling, the Republican Party decides to tackle this through the Supreme Court on appeal, we would wait to see. But it does not, they don't have enough energy behind this particular issue at the moment right now. There are bigger issues taking place in the United States. The cuts to Medicaid have been absolutely devastating. And this is impacting their base. The MAGA base right now, Richard B., pardon me, is very concerned.
Yes.
They're very concerned about the Epstein files. Maybe that's why I'm joking. The Epstein files is all the rage. So it doesn't appear to have the attention right now that they need to push forward.
Looking deeper into this issue, what message do you believe this ruling sends about the balance of power between the executive branch and the constitutional protections in the U.S.?
I think this is such a powerful question that you're asking, Richie B. Because we have a political system that is predicated on a balance of power. 1 second.
No problem. We're talking here with Dr. Karren Dunkley, and we are dissecting the issue as you have come to hear it in relation to the order to end birthright citizenship and the court ruling that it's unconstitutional. And we are having a discussion on this matter right here on the Richard B. Morning Show. It is the big story, and we're standing by to rejoin Dr. Dunkley as soon as she sort of clears up that little frog.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I went running this morning, so I guess I'm not as young as I used to be, where I can jog 5 miles, So that's it.
Yes.
So I think you ask a very powerful question, because so much of America's governance system, especially at the federal level, the presidential level, is predicated on this notion that the executive, the legislative, which would be the Congress and the Senate, and the judiciary branch, the Supreme Court, the courts, that they must balance each other out, that they must somehow become the voice of reason. So what we see certainly is that we see where the executive power, in terms of the expansion of its power, is being mitigated. And that was, I have to tell you that so many of us held bated breath, because if you're looking at what is happening, the executive has actually had some expansion of power. They've signed so many executive orders that the courts have actually upheld. So this suggests that in this instance, the powers of the executive were kept in check. And so it served as a check on the power of the executive. That is number one. So there was no major shift toward the executive branch in this instance, even though, Richie B., if you look at what has been taking place, where so much of the Supreme Court, again, remember that judges are politically appointed. They have upheld what was signed into order, but not in this case. So that is number one. So the message sent is simply this, that the president cannot unilaterally redefine constitutional rights. And that would have been a dangerous expansion, and we are grateful. Number two, it would have meant that the judicial precedents would have been weakened. And I told you what my friend shared about the Kim arc, One Kim arc, they said in 1898. And so it has not weakened any precedent. That's number two. Again, we have to be grateful, because it's saying that the foundational interpretations of the constitutions continue to stand and that they remain. And it's very important, because if you look at what is happening, you would remember, as you think of the elimination of affirmative action, the attack on what they call DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, even though the number one beneficiaries of DEI has been white women, has not been black people. So imagine if you had overturned Brown versus the Board of Ed, which is the overturning of segregation. So it would draw a line to say, because people are saying, what next? Yeah. Because are they coming for civil rights? So judicial precedent standing again is a good thing. And then, quite frankly, congressional authority. If birthright citizenship had changed without a constitutional amendment or act of Congress, it would really sideline the legislative branch and place them in a sphere where the legislative branch, the people's representative, remember, in the legislative, you have the people who are elected to represent and serve in both the Congress and Senate. It would say now that we're no longer democratic, where we debate and we deliberate, but that the president can unilaterally or the executive make decisions. So we're at a constitutional crossroads, and we're thankful, Richie B., that this is showing that in this instance, the Constitution is durable. It says what it does, and who interprets it gets to be the people, and the people being the court.
All right. Dr. Dunkley, you speak, we listen, and we learn. I thank you for your time and your thoughts this morning, and I wish you a great day. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Walk good and one love.